Hello and greetings, everyone. Today is a Sabbath, April 16, or as they say in Europe, the 16th of April, 2022. And Michael and I are back together to do a session on what does the Bible tell us about conspiracies, session number 26. Michael, welcome.
Yeah, good morning, America. Actually, it's already afternoon here. It's 5:45. Sun is shining. We have very great weather, of course, but Easter is approaching. Yes, and it's a pagan festival. We know that we have done session, I think it was 22, where we explicitly told about the origin of the fertility celebration at Easter. Now we are in session 26 in John F. Kennedy. I think we're about in the middle of the mess.
What we have here, what Michael and I have to offer is very unique. And Michael just pointed out to me before we started the session today that there are many big differences in Europe as opposed to the United States, and that's the obvious. But for us Americans, now, listen, it's not easy for us to get it through our thick skulls. Because, listen, I'm every bit as stubborn as anyone else. And it's not easy to wrap your mind around these things. So we ask for your patience and your tolerance, please. And we thank you for your comments and your support. So, Michael, please continue.
Session 26, John F. Kennedy. What does the Bible tell about conspiracies? Well, we had it in general that also the other big events in America were rituals, for example, 9/11 or the moon landing. And JFK is one of the more earlier ones. This is also ritual. And so this is also the next session about the JFK ritual, number 2, called Inside Dealey Plaza, because we have already, some sessions ago, we have already looked upon the Dealey Plaza from a bird's eye and to Dallas in general, and now we are looking into or inside Dealey Plaza. Before I'll go to Dealey Plaza, I have to make some more remarks. This is the place where all happened. About 60 years ago, that's quite a long time. Yeah, there were no Fountain Place and no Bank of America at that time, 1963, but nevertheless. I just want to clarify something. When we spoke the last time of God's bankers, Roberto Calvi, of his connection with the Freemasonry, I just want to point it out because I did insert that, but I don't know if that had made it to the English review, English broadcast, and I would like to point it out. I don't know if that is a quite correct picture here as well. That there is a hint about the link to the Freemasons as well, because I apologize for being too lazy or too busy to translate it into English. I will do that now. 3 days later, on the morning of the 18th of June, the post office clerk, Anthony Huntley, found Calvi's body. The banker was being hanged on an orange cord at the London Blackfriars Bridge. And when you know it has been mentioned orange, that is one of the highest grades in the Scottish Rite. It's a 33-degree grade. This is the color of orange. Orange, by the way, of course, is the color of the sun. And that was my assumption when I did in German the session 66 on the satanic music agenda with Peter Gabriel, that when he came down to do this ritual on the ladder on the Rock Palace Festival in 1978, I think it was, he was wearing an orange jacket. Maybe that was also a clue for, it is supposed to be a kind of construction worker with the gloves, but Freemasons also wear gloves, other type, and orange for the 33 degree. And that's also no coincidence that the astronauts, so-called by the NASA, also are wearing orange. Yeah, though that was the ritual which we have shown then on the old satanic media agenda exposed. Furthermore, it says, well, it's been said that the cold and dirty water of the Thames, of the river which is flowing through the city of London, was going until his stomach, and in his pockets, you could find this kind of special stones, and these stones were the stones who have been mentioned in Genesis 11 or the first book of Moses in the verse 3. Yeah, so I can go into this if you would like me to do so. Genesis 11 is by far one of the most interesting chapters when it comes down to Freemasonry. So these were the bricks where the Tower of Babel has been made from. And when you find that this unlucky banker has been found hanging on an orange cord and has been equipped with bricks in his pockets, yeah, and you see that you have twice the remarks that it has something to do with Freemasonry. And he was also a member of the P2 Lord, Propaganda Due. Yeah, so then you have it. Yeah, you have a high-ranking member of a Freemason order serving the Pope. And this is just one example, because I would like to point it out that is for the research to Kennedy, that there are many, many, many ties between Freemasonry and the papacy. Just another thing which I found this week in German, but nevertheless, I found that on Microsoft News, due to the heat of the sun, that the oxygen of the earth will disappear. Fear-mongering. And here you see the sun with a corona. And the main reason, therefore, is the brighter and hotter sun, which is then ending the life on this earth. And so also the global heating has some part of it, because then the amount of carbon dioxide will drop in the atmosphere, and carbon dioxide is absorbing the heat. Yeah, but there are so many incorrect things here in that article in German that I just don't want to translate it into English, because it's not just our session here that we are going into this. I just found it very interesting that they are always trying to fearmonger the people.
It's a Jesuitical tactic called social justice, Michael.
Yeah, it's a Cold War. It's the Islam. Yeah, it's Islamic terror. It's 9/11. It's all over the place. Now it is your health, affecting your health, and it's always the same. People are being manipulated. Yeah, you see that. What is that other than manipulation here? And then after 1 minute and 10 seconds of 1 minute and 15 seconds overall, they say that, oh, until it gets to that point, it will take millions or billions of years. Yeah, but many people just look at the headlines and said, oh yeah, there will be a point when there is no life anymore possible. Oh, I'm frightened to death. Yeah, and then comes the solution 5 seconds before. Ooh. Yeah. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. Yeah, don't trust anybody. Yeah, and that claim came from the NASA, National Aeronautic and Space Administration. Which is a government organization. So the government is trying to scare you.
Was that a Hebrew word you made reference to in our earlier study? Nashash, was it?
Nashash, yeah. To deceive.
Yeah, to deceive, right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not actually me that was making the reference here. It's actually many, many other people came with that too.
Well, it's just that you had presented it to us, in the series.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. Yeah, that's the thing, Michael, is each of us carry a little bit of responsibility with us when we start speaking, and when we make statements with other friends and relatives. And this is the problem. When you speak and you don't know what you're talking about, and you're repeating a lie that's been told to you, are you really responsible for it? Well, in some degree, you are. So it's really important to know and to study the origins of all things, such as the Bible and the scriptures and, the historical narrative as well. And I know that's not easy. It's really hard. But we do the best we can, Michael, with what we have. That's all we do. So thank you.
Yeah, even an 8-year-old can tell that this resembles the image of a snake. Yeah, the papal audience. So how hard can it be? It's just that people, Jörg said this week to me, or to the audience, said that just the problem is that Tom Frass told him that people usually are too lame to read books anymore. And I think that is one of the main reasons, yes. I found a quote at the beginning of this session of John F. Kennedy or Conspiracies from the late David McGowan, who is the main source for my NASA moon landing research in the Sciences in New Religion series, which has not ended, but is just postponed. And therefore, I just switch over because I found that very interesting. When it is all about fear and all about manipulation, I think it is a good forward to start with that. And yet, despite the fact that it was a relative benign lie, there is a tremendous reluctance among the American people to let go of the notion that we sent man to the moon. There are a couple of reasons for that, one of them being that there is a romanticized notion of those were great years. Years when one was proud to be an American. And in this day and age, people need that kind of romanticized nostalgia to cling to. But that is not the main reason that people cling so tenaciously, often even angrily, to what is essentially the adult version of Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. What primarily motivates them is fear. But it is not the lie itself that scares people. It is what lie says about the world around us and how it really functions. For if NASA was able to pull off such outrageous hawks between the entire world and then kept that lie in place for 4 and until now 5 decades, what does that say about the control of the information we receive? What does that say about the media and the scientific community and the educational community and all the other institutions we depend on to tell the truth? Or to tell us the truth? What does that say about the very nature of the world we live in? That is what scares the hell out of people and prevents them from even considering the possibility that they could have been so thoroughly duped. It is not being lied to about the moon landings that people have a problem with. It is the realization that comes with that revelation. If they could lie about that, they could lie about anything. And that's the same with Kennedy. It has been my experience, and the vast majority of the people who truly believe in the moon landings know virtually nothing about the elite missions. Mission spread, sending out of Jesuits. And when confronted with some of the more implausible aspects of those elite missions, the most frequently offered argument is the one that every quote-unquote conspiracy theorist has heard at least 1,000 times. Quote, "That can't be possibly true because there is no way that a lie that big could have been covered up all this time. Too many people would have known about it, yada, yada, yada," unquote. Yeah, and these people do not know that media is controlled, obviously. But what if your own eyes and your innate, though suppressed, ability to think critically and independently tell you what all the institutions of the state insist is true is actually a lie? What do you do then? Do you trust in your own cognitive abilities, or do you blindly follow authority and pretend as though everything can be explained away? If your worldview will not allow you to believe what you see with your own eyes, then the problem, it would appear, is with your worldview. So do you change that worldview, or do you live in denial? The moon landing lie is unique among the big lies in another way as well. It is a lie that seemingly cannot be maintained indefinitely. Washington need never come clean on, say, the Kennedy assassinations, meaning JFK and RFK. After all, they've been lying about the Lincoln assassination for nearly a century and a half now and getting away with that. So that was the article I wanted to show you from that very interesting article called "Wagging the Moon Doggy." Yeah, so people have fear, they fear the truth. If they don't have a foundation in faith, yeah, they hate the truth, because everything that functions in our society is based on lies when it comes down to official government explanations and all the things. That all the very important informations is been duped. Yeah, people have been led by the nose, but they have to function in society to make it in this world, to pay their bills, to educate their children and all the things. And who are you to question an Albert Einstein? So that is what our world is keeping busy, that people cannot accept, or otherwise they cannot afford to have an own opinion about it, because when they find out, then everything is at stake. The house, your social status, your wife, your children, your work, everything is in question then, because you won't find many people who are really interested in that kind of truth, because people say, "I don't care." They just care for their soccer, they just care for their cosmetics, they just care for their car, they just care for their income, but they don't care for the truth. And if you don't care for the truth, well, then I think you're not a proper Christian, because Jesus Christ says in John 14:6, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father but by me." So he's the truth. So, but what does that tell about some individual who is not interested in the truth? He's not interested in Jesus Christ. And we have been promised by the Bible that everything will be revealed. So that was the thing that I wanted to show you. In German, I have, of course, made the translation, because he's also speaking about 3,000 Americans have been killed. And that would be my guess. And so this is the moon landing hoax is the same lie as the Santa Claus, as the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. And that is just fear. It is just fear-mongering. It is just fear-mongering. It's all fear-mongering. So therefore, we start very fresh into this session of Kennedy, or explicitly the Kennedy assassination. There are many, 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 many ways to approach the Dealey Plaza, so the location where it all happened. For example, if you are just somebody who has just been going according to flow, or going with the mainstream media, you want to have a tourist visa to access Dallas, and then, of course, when you are in Dallas, you have to go to the Dealey Plaza. So this is just from hillmanweb.com, someone who has just been sharing his experience in going to the infamous grassy knoll, suspecting that there came some shots who killed the president, allegedly. And Zapruder, who took his famous photos, and etc., etc. And so people have a good time in that, just going to as tourists, and they are just appreciating the flower arrangements, the nice trees, the clean road, and everything which is absolutely absolutely unimportant. But they will never question the things, because just they want to share some kind of JFK. So he's standing in a spot where your famous American president has been killed, and you're smiling. That's a little bit awk. But that's just people who just want to see, to show it to their children. We were also in Dallas, and we visited that famous place. I think they are totally unaware where they are standing and why it happened there, but that's just them. Maybe they misjudged that as a swimming pool. I don't know. Maybe she's misjudging that at some kind of solar clock, which actually it is, but I don't know. People just don't know any history. And that's what we are for on the 7th. Then we started in my research. That's why we are making a live broadcast now here. Because in an earlier session, I used Google Street View, because this is a live cam from the window, alleged window, where the alleged shooter allegedly shot the president. What do you see? You see the Dealey Plaza. You see out of the infamous window, you see the swimming pool. Oh my. People don't actually, I think they are not aware of all the symbology on that place. But why should they? Because it is not a part of their daily life, of their daily routine. They are just functioning. They are just going to work. Then they have to raise children. And they are not like us, who have so-called sworn their allegiance to this truth. Yeah, so which is actually the truth of Jesus Christ. So you see that this place is so infamous that even there is a live cam. Okay. So that makes sense, huh? If you are an assassin here and you got a very bad day, you see that, oh, by the way, the American president is rushing in here, is coming over to Houston, is not driving straight down the mainstream, but is then making a sharp left turn onto Elm. Here is the infamous X, and then you shoot at the president. Here, can you imagine here your view is a little bit blocked by that tree? So allegedly, that shot here, location, is the third shot of Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah, how the heck should he have been fired 2 shots before with a tree blocking his view? But that's not the question that the Warren Commission had to solve, of course. Yeah, but you see, there is no point in explaining the official narrative. But that's not our point at the moment, because I'm not quite at the time, I'm not busy with Lee Harvey Oswald. We will do about Lee Harvey Oswald several sessions, but I'm just about the ritual, I'm not just about the place here. So then let's move on. The Earth cam of Dealey Plaza says that this is the window where President Kennedy was shot from, when it was not, because the actual plate onto that very building here, the Texas School Book Depository, does say that this was the place where he was allegedly shot. So that is another false narrative here. Okay, so then I ask you a question. This is a movie which happened to be shot on the very day, November the 22nd, 1963. So that is clearly that building where allegedly the assassin, no nut, Mr. Oswald, has been waiting for his prey. So Brett, let me ask you one thing when you look upon that picture.
Mm-hmm.
Does it look like an ordinary depository?
No.
Because that building was not planned as a Texas School Book Depository. This building has been built in, I think it was 1898, and then was been hired from several contractors and has been used as a warehouse before. And then out of a sudden in 1963, it was been used as a Texas School Book Depository. And Lee Harvey Oswald was been employed in that building about 6 weeks before the alleged assassination took place. When I look at that building, I think that with that columns in stock or in place in front, it looks more like a library, or it looks more like a temple actually. And therefore I thought about when we know already that Dealey Plaza is a Freemason temple, then okay, maybe this serves another purpose. And I'm quite sure that it does, because there are just 2 names who are popping up, although these are 4 columns, so to speak. These names are Jachin and Boaz in the first book of Kings. These are the 2 columns of the Temple of Solomon. And this is, of course, First Kings 7. Yeah, that is the verse here. For he cast 2 pillars of brass at 18, 3 times 6 cubits high apiece. And that is, of course, Solomon's temple. It's not God's temple, it is Solomon's temple. Yeah. So when you know that King Solomon was very rich and has 666, I think it was cubits of gold or so. Oh, 60. That is 60, a word which we do not have in German here. Yeah. 60. Where is 60? First Kings. Yeah, there you got it. First Kings 10:14. Would you care to read it?
Sure. First Kings 10:14. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold.
Yeah. And it was his palace or temple.
Book of Revelation says that that's the number of a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting, Michael.
Yeah. And we know also that he did not serve God the entire time. Yeah, he was having, I think it was hundreds of mistresses.
Backslidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was not following the path of God the entire time. And when he got here 606 talents of gold, so that is also a big number, which and you know that in the New Testament, when Jesus Christ says that is easier for a man to go through the eye of the needle, it was? It is easier to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Was it in that regard?
I think so.
Yeah.
Something to that extent.
Yeah. Okay, that was just
the scripture in front of me, of course.
From memory, yeah, and it's not my native language, so please excuse me if I mix something up. But that was just my intention, and we know that the World Trade Center, you see, that is a temple of Mammon. Yeah, it is about trade, it's about big money, it's about the Big Apple, it's about New York. Yeah? And allegedly, which I said in last session, American Rituals, these are two pillars of Solomon, and they have been destroyed on that temple. And by 19 terrorists, 19 is the 19th card of tarot, it not here the 16th, which depicts the tower, which is on fire, where people are actually then jumping out of the tower. There were 19 of these terrorists. 19 is the sun card of the tarot, so it would be to honor the sun with the number 19. Oh, well, 19 is also a very interesting number when it comes down to the actual situation, isn't it? 19. It has not only been introduced in 2019, but also it's just 19. It's been called C19, and now you got another one, 19 of terrorists. And some of people who were then been captured in the destroyed towers, which were burning, they actually fell to death or jumped to death. Yes, this is one famous example. And that struck me when I did in German the Lady Gaga sessions with Jörg. It struck me, I said, that is not by accident this pose that somebody has shot that picture, because it resembles the hanged man. And nobody at this moment knows exactly who that man is, what the identity of that man is. But it is very interesting because somebody says this. It has resemblance to an orange shirt. Yeah, and orange, once again, like remember the court and the Blackfriars Bridge of Roberto Calvi, has a resemblance to the 33 grade degree of the Freemason Scottish Rite. Yeah. And so that was Solomon's own palace. Yeah, and these are the two columns. This is the entrance of the temple. This is the World Trade, or was the World Trade Center. And some people are very lucky, or prophets, or they have just a big amount of foreknowledge, because Larry Silverstein, of course, there plays a Jew in front as distraction. He was benefiting in it because just weeks ago he had insured every tower separately against terrorist attacks. You must be very naive to think that it was an accident. Okay. So the 6th floor museum at Dealey Plaza also resembled some columns at the entrance. And so that looks like, if you see that in that small picture here, maybe that was been inserted or added onto afterwards. I don't know, because it does not resemble the same color, brown, like the bricks on that building. So museum means a temple or shrine of the muses. Yeah, so these are the muses from actually the Olymp, so the Greek mountain of goddesses, Erato, Kilio, Thalia, Urania, etc., etc. And the problem is that people will think that I am or you are a loony thinking about this Kennedy assassination as a religious ritual. which it is, because if Freemasons are being involved in that, Freemason is everything about religion. Don't let them fool you, confuse you into believing they don't. They have very strange rites. They have very strange biblical related biblical rituals. It has everything to do with religion, because you have to believe in a supreme being. So it has everything to do with religion in it. So my point is that if you think now this as a temple, they have been used as a temple here because it is on the Elm Street, on the street of death. Actually, that is very interesting that actually this shot's been alleged coming from that window. And some of the researchers, at the moment I'm referring just as an example here to William Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse, he says that on that very building here at the county jail, they have inserted some pentagrams even on that. The problem that I got at the moment is I cannot back that up because the interview of Cooper is about 30 years old. And if you think now or look now at the actual site at the moment, it has been under construction. So I cannot actually verify any of these claims, but it is absolutely unnecessary because on the other hand and on the other side actually you see the temple of the Freemasons, and if that is not a temple, then what is it? Okay, so then let's look it up, because also in the Vatican we have very strange artifacts or very strange things. We have an obelisk as in the Dealey Plaza, and we have a pine, for example, and that is also resemblance to Nimrod, and every erected element has something to do with the male phallus, and every curved or arc has a resemblance to the female uterus or womb. So you know what I mean from that perspective here. Yeah, so they worship images and idols there. It is also an evergreen, and this has something to do with Nimrod once again. And Nimrod is the older name of the Babylonian name, which is in the Egyptian mythology Osiris. And so you see also here in the Egyptian Trinity and mystery, you see a tamarisk, a so-called evergreen tree, which grew then out of Osiris and was then been seen as the deceased Osiris, etc., etc. So you see that it's always the same. If it has been just from Babylon to Egypt. So after when Osiris has been killed by his brother called Set, S-E-T-H, his brother said, pardon me for not having translated that beforehand, he has been sealed in a chest and then been thrown in the river Nile. And then the Greek biographer called Plutarch says that, oh yeah, Isis was cutting her hair and she was mourning, and then she was going to Byblos, not the Bible, but Byblos, where the coffin has been coming down on, has been seen and land, and has been landed there. And then a plant has covered this sarcophag or this chest, this coffin there, and then it was and hid it, and it was extremely big, and the king says, okay, I cut down something about it and I will erect it as a column to support my roof. Yeah, and afterwards the queen or Isis came to Byblos, and then she was crying, and then she was seen and smelling the odor, and then yeah, they were fornicating, and then blah 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 blah. Yeah, and so, and Isis then have born a child, and she did not feed the child. But she was holding the child into the fire to create immortality. This is all mysterious. This is all legend. This is all a lie, of course, never happened. But you see that the evergreen tree, which is a synonym or a symbol for Nimrod and Tammuz, is the same as Isis, Osiris, and Horus. So it's absolutely the same. So Isis was getting back the body of Osiris back to Egypt, because he was formerly he was at Byblos in Lebanon, but now he's gotten back to Egypt, and then he was originally being the god of the sun god, erect symbol, of course, so it is also a solar clock, of course. And then because he was dead and she could not find the 14th piece, which was of course his phallus, so he could not be reborn again. Therefore he had become the lord of the underworld, so which means the lord of death or Satan or what else you would like to call him. So once again, you are in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. Once again, you have here an obelisk. You have 14 cuttings, so 14 pieces of Osiris. You got a reflection pool, which is the synonym or the symbol for Isis, for the female womb. And you got a Egyptian pyramidical symbol, the Masonic hierarchy with the all-seeing eye on top, and I will enlarge it a little bit so it is more easier to read. And you got done on your $1 bill. You get on the back, you get that very symbol here of the Egyptian pyramid. And it is, I think, not by accident, Brett, that it is once been mentioned as "in God we trust," but God, the word God, has no copyright, so it can only mean the God of this world, which is Satan, which has been worshipped as a god in this world, the god of Mammon, like the World Trade Center. So money is a big issue. And I don't think, Brett, that it is by coincidence that the pyramid with Anuis Coptis and Nuovo Ordo Seclorum is on the $1 bill. It's one world religion, one new world order. It is not on the $100 bill, it is on the one. So there is also a confirmation on that backside of the dollar bill which says one kingdom, one order. And so you got the Freemason symbol on the back with many other symbols, with hexagrams and all the things on your $1 bill hidden in the owl. And on the front of the dollar bill, you got the image of George Washington, which was a Freemason. So your country is officially being led by Freemason. Of course, there are other forces behind that. That is just one outer order, which then is being controlled by other orders, but just to make it quite clear that you have been ruled from the start of your country by Freemasons. So what do you think is the outcome? It is not the land of the home of the brave, land of the free, unlimited possibilities from dishwasher to millionaire. It's all a big lie. It's all a big lie. This is the Egyptian Chepron pyramid, the second of the highest of the pyramids of Gizeh in Egypt. And so that has been named according to the Osiris. And Osiris, this pyramid is 275 kings Ellen, so that's the size, high. What is 2 plus 7 plus 5? It is 14. So once again, the resemblance to Osiris. And all the things of the legends of Isis and Osiris, it's all just a blatant lie. Isn't it a coincidence that this female queen has the same name as the allegedly Islamic terror organization, which terrorized the Middle Arabian Peninsula and all the stuff 10 or 20 years ago, Brad? I don't think that is a coincidence.
No, of course not.
They could have come up with another name, but so these are just allegedly things. So that of course Nimrod has also been claimed to have a struggle against Abraham in Jewish traditions, of course, only Brett in some versions. But only Flavius Josephus is almost correct. He says that Nimrod is a man who will set his will against that of God, of course, building the Tower of Babel, erecting a column to be worshipped by the people. Yeah, but there are other versions in some versions, and in some versions, and still other versions. So you only have to look to the Bible to have the truth, but you've been bombarded your entire life with legends and with all the things which are explicitly deceptions, like the NASA, to deceive the people. Yeah, so that is the evergreen tree. It's the fir, the holy mountain, or sorry, the holy tree in the Roman Empire was the fir, and that's been worshipped, of course, as the evergreen every Christmas. Has nothing to do with Christ. Has everything to do with Nimrod. Birthday 25th of December. Why? Because the 22nd of December is the longest night, so that is when the sun is totally weak, and of course that is also the reason why people have then feared for that the sun could not return, and so many myths and legends. Yeah, but it's all the same. It began with a snake and a tree. I found that very interesting. It began with a snake and a tree. Isn't that something? Yeah, that was the funny part, but it's always the same. You should not erect any columns, and of course the evergreen tree is a symbol for Nimrod. I don't care if it is a symbol for Osiris, because Nimrod is the original source. It is Babylon, it is not Egypt. Yeah? So everybody who has eyes to see sees all the resemblance to Nimrod all over the place in every church tower. The Bible does not speak about erecting towers. The Bible forbids erecting columns. The Bible does not speak of installing church bells. But the problem is that many people do not read the Bible. The problem is, according to Tom Fress, if I have remembered correctly, I'm quoting Jörg correctly, that people are too lame to read books. And we are meaning, of course, the Bible. So Nimrod is the Lord of Christmas. And if you would like to have it this way, then of course the Nimrod column is the same as the Osiris column. So actually what they are doing is they are worshipping the mother of harlots, full of abominations, the whore of Babylon at the Dealey Plaza. Yeah, if you rename it, then Osiris. If you rename it, then Isis, I don't care. But actually, it's the whore of Babylon. And then you know what kind of church is behind all this myth and legends and all this trickery. And from Osiris, we learn that he has been murdered by his brother Set, and another name of Set is Typhoon. And so he became the lord of the underworld. Therefore, the Freemasons, they're having a sun festivities the day of John. It's the 24th of June, of course. That is the opposition of the 24th, 25th of December. Yeah. And so allegedly to them that John the Baptist is the patron of the Freemasons. How's that? And so that is the reason why many cultures here at the moment in Sweden, for example, the IKEA, which is a very famous, infamous, cheap supplier of furniture, they have festivities. It's called Midsummer. Yeah, from the 15th of June to the 7th of July. July also has been named by Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar. Yeah, and it's all over the place. It's all over the place. Who's Typhoon? Yeah, Typhoon. So Typhon was being depicted as a mixed creature, half animal, half human of the Greek mythology. He was a giant with several dragon and snake heads. Is that a resemblance to the Bible or is it not? The Arabian people, they have claimed that tropical hurricanes in the Indian Ocean has been renamed as Typhoon. Yeah? So that is also resemblance to that kind of a god. And this is just only the funny part. We are getting very serious soon. After he was an adult, he was being big, he was climbing up to the mountains of the gods, so the Olymp, where Olympia comes from in the Greek mountains, where he then has troubled or terrorized actually the gods with his loud voice out of 100 throats, so that they flew to Egypt, and they have been hiding as animals. So I don't know how potent these gods are when they are so scared when somebody is yelling at them. So it's, and then he had this Zeus was fighting against him. He lost, and then he had to go back to the Olymp, to the mountains of the gods, to, where is it? To get access to more thunderbolts. So how potent is a Greek master of gods, godhead, like Zeus, which is the equivalent to the Roman Catholic, to the Roman Jupiter, when they need thunderbolts? These thunderbolts appears in numerous mythologies as a weapon of the sky father. The demon Baal is also said to have possessed the thunderbolt. You see, this is all comedy for adults. With the thunderbolt, the owner become masses of lightning and the thunder that followed. It can be used both as a weapon and as a means of controlling the weather. Ah, interesting. Somebody, I think that has been said to Lyndon B. Johnson, they have the thunderbolt because they want to control the weather. And I'm quite sure that they are controlling the weather, at least in some instances. So mythology legend has it, it can be used both as a weapon and as a means of controlling the weather. When it is used as a weapon, the owner hurls it at the earth in the bright beam. This is how the phenomenon of lightning was explained at that time. Yep, great, huh? Great, thunderbolts. Wow, you really need that thunderbolts. Yeah. The Cyclops created three magical things: the Hades cup as a cloak of invisibility for Hades, the trident as a scepter for Poseidon, and the thunderbolt as a weapon for Zeus. Wow. Isn't that something? My. So this is all BS, but people are actually, there were many people, the herd or the mob, or what else to say, they really believed that there were some gods on the highest mountains who were having thunderbolts and could be made invisible. Yeah, great. Okay. But these thunderbolts are being presented here, and that god Zeus is depicted where? It is in Paris, once again, in the museum, you know, a temple of the Muses in Paris. Ah, Paris, the one who started the Trojan War, huh? Oh, yeah. Of course, you're only being presented with pagan images and idols in all the museums of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also here you
started in Rome, Michael.
You really think it started in Rome?
Oh, yeah. I know they did.
Could it be that it started quite more earlier? Because I think
it was the whole, it could be, but you know, it's the whole idea of the Counter-Reformation that they had to initiate a kind of way for reverence of, well, you know, that's what I found on my research. I could be wrong.
No. I don't want to contradict that. It's just the thing that you don't need a museum to exhibit pagan gods and goddesses. You see that every depiction of Nimrod
it's a pantheon,
in Babel,
isn't it? It's a pantheon.
Yeah. That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like the Pantheon in Rome. Actually, I visited there when I was 20 years old, believe it or not.
Yeah,
I was there.
And nowadays you would wish that you have taken much photos.
Well, I took photos. Problem is, I didn't know what I was looking at. So did I take photos of things that, you know, were interesting? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I was looking at. It looked old and really disgusting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So would I take a photo of that? No.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's just so many things about Rome that are easily, the mind is easily tricked, Michael, you know.
No, you're absolutely correct.
You're
absolutely correct when you say that that it has not started in Paris, but it was also in Rome in the Pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely agree. But
well, the Pantheon is actually, wasn't it? Oh, I don't know all the history here behind it, but I'll tell you that that structure is very ancient. It goes almost back to the time of Christ, as far as I remember.
Yeah, it comes from Latin, Pantheon, so it's a Latin name.
Mm-hmm.
A temple dedicated to all the gods built in Rome. 25 before Common Era. Yeah. By Agrippa. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been around for a very long time. And who was it?
Yeah, what I wanted to
who was
refer
it that it was given to? Was it Emperor Phocas who gave it to?
I don't know on that item, but what just comes into my mind is that
now.
if you call something a museum like the Louvre in Paris, then you refer to the Greek Empire.
Oh, that could be.
Or the Greek gods, you see, and they were before the Romans actually, and this was what was it? Alexander the Great,
the
328.
The reintroduction of museums in a modern context, Michael, I think was the Counter-Reformation, because I looked that up and a while back, and I was looking into it, and I don't know, I could be wrong easily.
So. No. It's just that when you say that it's a pantheon, it's absolutely correct because it's a Latin name. When Paris is referring to a museum, then it's a temple of the muses. So that it's the Greek mythology, and so that is both of them before Christ was born. Yeah, that's here. You see that 25 before Common Era. So era. Yeah, so it was before Christ even that they were, of course, worshipping images and idols. They did all the time in Babylon, Medo-Persia, everywhere, images and idols. And they have built temples. You see that these Aztec temples and all the temples in Mexico and South America and all the things. So they are worshipping their images and idols. They need something to look at. Yeah, they are not worshipping spirits. They're actually worshipping images and idols here. And this Zeus, which is depicted here or been displayed here in the Louvre, or in the Louvre complex here, this is just a pyramid, so Egyptian, and with the reflecting pools. So it's the same male-female analogy. And then there's other analogies, for example, the doctrine and the church. So the doctrine is the active part and the church is the passive part, the woman. Yeah, the church is a woman. When we go down to the path of Dealey Plaza, we will see that also. And this Zeus, or Jupiter then, of course, in the Roman, this Zeus been depicted with a thunderbolt in this very museum. Of course, when you have a Greek god and you have a museum, a temple of the muses of the Greek mythology, of course, what do you expect other than Greek gods? It's very interesting because you see that if you depict here the alleged Saint Peter in the cathedral, St. Peter's Basilica it is. Yeah, then he's got a sun disk above his hair, so it's also a sun symbol, sun worship on that regard. And many people claim that this is the old god Jupiter. I don't know because I'm not that old. On the other hand, if you go take a walk in the Louvre Museum, what do you see? A checkered floor. How convenient. No, this is not a black and white picture. You see the red line?
Yeah, that's right. It's a YouTube picture.
Yeah, I often use them, to have no problem. Yeah, but you see that the Thunderbolt has often been mentioned also in car design. Ford Fairlane, racing cars, Chrysler the Baron, Thunderbolt, etc. Yeah, you see it's all a resemblance to Greek gods. Yeah. Who knows this? Yeah, and in Luke 10:18, Jesus says, "Behold, I saw Satan fell like a lightning from sky." So the lightning is not a very positive meaning. And also, the thunderbolt has two shapes. First of all, in the German mythology, as a hammer, the hammer of Thor, the god of thunder. Yeah, god of thunder. It's a famous song of Kiss, for example, Alive 2, god of thunder. And also in the Roman mythology, in the shape of a barbell. Oh, then I found this picture of this famous bodybuilding guy. The guy I took here is for several reasons. First of all, he's very famous because he's got an outstanding body. But second of all, his name is Bob Paris. like the city. And therefore I showed him here. Yeah, and this is all about the Greek and the Roman goddess displayed here. And what is the Roman Colosseum bread other than the unfinished Tower of Babel? If you
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, if you see that resemblance here, it looks almost the same or identical to the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Yeah, it's been also unfinished, and also very interested that at the gates of this Colosseum, which at this moment of, I think since last year has been renewed in the catacombs, so in the basement, in the cellars, where they had lions to then tore the Christians into pieces, and maybe all the bad things are coming back. And it's very interesting when you look about the shape of the gates of the Colosseum. Does that remind you of anything?
Oh, yeah. Sure does.
It sure does, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you know, these are the kinds of things that are in our face every day in the United States, and people just don't recognize it for what it truly is, because it's tough, man.
Yeah, this is a sign of Anu, so
Yeah.
that means that I can get away with everything because I will not have been held responsible by men, more or less. Please correct me if I'm not correctly explaining that. That means that it's a sign of God that nobody shall harm the owner of that sign. That is the sign
mark of Cain, yes.
The mark of Cain, yes, the sign of Anu, the mark of Cain. And this is here from a Bruce Lee side, where he was having his famous fight against Chuck Norris. Yeah. So this murder of his brother Osiris, called Seth, or the same name as Typhoon, he fled to Sicily. Oh, Sicily, very interesting. Wasn't there something about Sicily and Aleister Crowley? My.
Oh, yeah.
Sicily.
That sounds right.
Not silly. Sicily, Aleister Crowley. Yeah. Yeah, these people know what they are doing. That's the big difference to people who are not knowing what they're doing. So this Typhoon fled to Sicily, and Zeus, so the head god, he was thrown the volcan named Etna onto Typhoon. And since then, Typhoon has been captured under the volcano named Etna. And when he's very angry, then the Etna has been bursting and he's spitting fire and stones. Wow. Yeah, so that means in Freemason terms that the Etna is erupting, spitting fire and stones, when Typhoon, so the murderer of Osiris, is angry. And now you can think for yourself, what goes through the mind of a Freemason when this volcano is erupting? And he says, oh, Typhoon's coming back. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah, Sicily, huh? Sicily, oh. I'm so tempted at the moment to make a Maps Google search about the Abbey of Thelema, to the Abbey of Thelema, Maps Google, at the distance to the volcano of Etna. Yeah. And Sicily, we have talked about that in the Science as the New Religion series. Etna. Ah, you see? Aha. Oh, it's just 100 miles, okay? That's a little bit far away. But Sicily is the famous rock we have presented to the famous boot sign of shape of Italy in Europe. Yeah, so the shape of the country of Italy resembles more or less like a boot. Yeah, and this rock, and you know that the
football.
football. Now we talked about the thing that it is most certainly not a coincidence that Crowley went to Sicily, and it is no coincidence that the Etna is on Sicily, and it is no coincidence that there is a rock which resembles Jesus Christ, of course, has been mentioned, who will then destroy the image of Nebuchadnezzar in the dream of Daniel. It was Daniel 2, I think it was. Brad, please correct me. I don't have anything in my memory.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. This is an image of the inauguration of the President John F. Kennedy. And his opponent, so to speak, where he is swearing on the Bible, by the way, a Jesuitical Bible, by the way, a Douay-Rheims Bible. He's been swearing the oath of being President of the United States against the Chief Justice, Earl Warren. And you see here behind Mr. Nixon, you see here Lyndon B. Johnson, Jacqueline Kennedy, Miss Kennedy, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, but he's swearing the oath to the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice called Earl Warren, the presidential oath. He was the Grand Master of the Freemasons for the state of California from 1935 to 1936. So he's surrounded by Freemasons. Of course, because the American state or corporation has been founded by Freemasons. So the Dealey Plaza, of course, is also a Freemason temple, consisting of 3 streets: Elm Street, Main Street, Commerce Street. And Jörg came up with said, oh, E equals MC square. Okay, that's one hint. The other hint is that it's really a temple, because you got here the famous Osiris obelisk. And you see from that perspective that the yeah, not from that perspective, no, from another perspective, yeah, okay. So you see here that this Osiris, that is a resemblance of the sun. At the moment, of course, he's in the underworld because he's not completed, but that is a temple of the sun, or it is at the moment a temple of death, of course. Huh? Why should it be a sun temple? When Osiris is not the sun god, he used to be the sun god, but he's not complete, and he's now the lord of the underworld. So this is a temple of death. They won't tell you that. The majority of researchers say it is a temple of the sun, which is not incorrect, but actually he is now the lord of the underworld. So it's a temple of the underworld. Okay, let's look at here from that perspective. Now you see the shape of the pyramid on top of the Texas Schoolbook Depositorium. Now you see the biggest column of Nimrod, or skyscraper of, or if you like to say so, Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel. You see that here in line with the obelisk of Osiris. Now you got 3 streets: Elm, Main, Commerce, and 3 streets with 3 lanes. Makes 33 in symbology, not mathematically correct, of course. That would be 9, but 3 by 3 is 33. It's a symbol also for that. Yeah, there are 3 lanes, 3 by 3, and there's an entrance here for, I don't know, passengers.
It's just a street. It's a sidewalk, Michael. That's
a sidewalk, yeah. So this is here the Elm Street from the view back to the Texas Schoolbook Depositorium. And this is where we talked about one of the last sessions, the Mattress Park, which comes after the complete Dealey Plaza. And now comes the part for Brett, because every time you see that symbol, keep it simple, stupid. It has nothing to do with stupidity, but please make it simple, because people are being trained to need to need an expert for anything, and that is not necessary. You have to think in basic terms. So you see here, once again, the entrance of that building looks like a temple. Yeah, it does not fit the color. Yeah, everything is here being made with an arc. This is just rectangular. It looks more or less like a temple to me. And this man is pointing up and says, there was the bastard who shot the President Kennedy. You think so? And now you got a big difference from Europe to America, because in America you use gallons, you use Fahrenheit, you use inches, you use pounds. And we in Germany or in Europe in general, we are using other measurements, other weights, etc., etc. So for us, for you, I think everybody knows that Brett does not have to count this. I did it in German, but in German it is the 5th floor, but in America it is the 6th floor, because you count the 1st floor as the basement, and we count it as the basement, and we start with the 1st floor at your 2nd floor. So for us it is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th floor. For you it is the 2nd floor, and we know that from all the world, 6th floor.
Yeah, and the ground level or main level is always regarded as the 1st level. Yes. Yeah.
So we're speaking about the 6th floor, allegedly where the shots were coming from. This is an official drawing from the Warren Commission, where a witness called Howard Brennan says, okay, yes. And you see that is a black and white picture, which resembles here of also this entrance here, which looks almost as if it has been built afterwards or been plugged onto it or what else. And he's referring to having seen somebody here, and to have seen, I think it were colored people here on that window. And so they are referring to. And he heard also a loud noise that he thought it was a backfire. And he says, I glanced up. This man I saw previous was aiming for his last shot. I said, that is very unbelievable. Because why, he said, for his last shot? Because that would then automatically mean that there were other shots. Yeah, so I don't know what to make up out of this. And I said, I don't follow any witnesses, because I don't know if these witnesses are really neutral, or they have been bought, or they have been influenced, or what else. I don't know. Because if you start on this, yeah, you will never been lucky, and you will never end your research about that Kennedy and religion and government, etc. He says there was a shot or something, or noise, sounds like a backfire. So everything you have to question here. And that's why I have to skip everything here, because that is just one witness. Yeah, can you imagine? You can be busy your entire life, and there are obviously people who are busy their entire life into, and there obviously are people in spending their entire life into the investigation of Kennedy, but they don't get to the very nitty-gritty. For example, that there is no coincidence that Mr. Abraham Zapruder said or been filmed at the right spot at the right time, because he was a 33-degree Freemason after all. I think he was 32 before, but he ended as a 33-degree Freemason in a Freemason ritual. And you think that it was by accident that he stood at the exact spot where he was then in line with the killing of Kennedy? Wow. In the German Wikipedia, they actually said, oh yeah, by chance, accidentally, Mr. Zapruder said was filming there. That is absolutely spot on lie, I think. I cannot prove it, of course, but it is absolutely outrageous, naive to believe that this Freemason in the Freemason spot in the Freemason ritual was standing there by accident. So the Texas Schoolbook Depositorium, TBSD, has been created, some say in 1898 and some say in 1901. Brett, I need a simple answer. What is the meaning of 1901 in Freemasonic numerology?
Oh boy. Sorry, I can't
just
think.
One?
Well, wait a second. 9/11?
Yeah, well, could be, but it's just more easy to just add the numbers.
Oh, sure. Okay, so that would be 11.
Right? Yeah, we got another resemblance for the Genesis 11. So Genesis chapter 11 or Apollo 11. Yeah, you see, you got the 11 once again. Okay. By the way, Lee Harvey Oswald has been employed there about 6 weeks before the assassination, by accident, of course. And now the first upper floors, they contain the so-called 6th floor museum. Yep. And this is one of the documentaries which I was about to warn you this is everything's a rich man's tricks. Nobody tells you who are these rich men are. They're calling about all these are Nazis. This documentation says, by killing the most powerful man in the world with 3 rifle shots. What they don't tell you, look at the size and the shape of the windows. You got here the square and the compass. You got the arc on the left side. You got the rectangular at the right side. Yeah, so these are the insignias of the Freemasonry. Yeah, this is the Freemason square and compass. You just need a tool to create a perfect or almost perfect arc. You cannot do that by hand. So they say that is the most powerful man in the world would be Kennedy, which is not correct. Yeah, he's not the most powerful man in the world. He never was, and he never would be. So therefore, they talk about 3 rifle shots here. And what they don't tell you is look at the size and the shape of the window there once again. And so therefore, you have to do it very simple. This is once again a task now approaching, because we are just using now the color picture of that window. Is there something fishy about that window?
Well, I think you pointed this out earlier to me, actually, Michael. So it's no surprise the bricks.
Oh, I didn't know
above the window.
Yeah.
Count the rows. How many rows?
Yeah. If you count here, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, these are 10 layers of bricks. But in American counting methods, it is the same as the basement floor, because now you have to add the surface, which then
correct makes it
is 11. Yeah, these are 11 layers of bricks, and now you get your second 11 on that building, being erected in 1901 officially. Other sources say 1898, but 1901. And now you got 11 bricks. So that has something to do with Freemasonry. And you got other hints too. You got, of course, the arc and the square and the compass. So it is absolutely basic. The entire place is occult. The entire place has hidden numerology and hidden symbology. Yeah, this is very interesting. And now this is also very simple here. Another task. Yeah, you see here the openings in the this arc here containing the basin here, the swimming pool.
9 times 2, which is 18. 6 plus 6 plus 6.
Yeah, it's 666 once again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got it all over the place. If you know that, you know that this is a Freemason place. It has to be. I have a very funny remark to that. When I was walking into a bank a few years ago, I had to wait. And then I was looking up and down and left and right, and I said on the balcony, and I said, "Oh, there is an interesting shape." And these have also been squares out of the wall. So there were openings, and I counted 3 by 11. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Who might that be? Is it the architect or the founder, or the financier, or the head of the bank? I don't know, but somebody has to be a 33-degree Freemason." It is so obvious. Nothing happens by accident. Yeah, it's more expensive to create some kind of this shape with that huge amount of openings than to have a complete concrete wall. Yeah, so this takes more man hours and more effort into as to create something without any openings. So this has just been made on purpose. This is just 666 once again. What JFK, Oliver Stone, who is, in my humble opinion, Jesuit coadjutor, and also Buzz Aldrin, who never went to the moon, is flashing 666. This is the official sign that on this 6th floor window, another 6, the elite 3 shots have been fired to Mr. Kennedy. And this is the route. It has nothing to do with logic, has everything to do with ritual. The logic would be that you take the direct route through the main street, which actually would be very interesting, because you see that this is Osiris here as the sun. So this is the center of the temple. And everybody drives through the center of the temple and not knowing what they are doing. Or many people do not know what they are doing. And so this is 666. 666 has also resemblance to the hexagon. It's also male and female combined. 6 points, 6 mini triangles, and 6-sided polygon inside 666. Yes, and you got another interesting things on the Dealey Plaza. You got no capstone because yes, if you look upon that, this is a triple underpass, which avoids that this pyramid shape will be completed. So this is a cut here, like the cut on the dollar note background or back side of the dollar note. Yeah, you got so no discontinued pyramid. You got no capstone. That has been to be taken in place by the Luciferian doctrine. You got 3 pyramids, means triangle. You got 1 big pyramid, and you got inside 2 little pyramids, which means 3 pyramids. You got 3 eyes and 3 underpasses. Yeah, 3 eyes are the 3 openings, 3 underpasses means another 6. Yeah. And so the entire place is very interesting because you got another 6 with the 6th floor window, which is then here be a Freemason window, which now you know about the 11 layers of bricks. There are only 3s and 6s here been used by that very spot. Very interesting. This is the backside of the Texas Schoolbook Depositorium. What do you see? That's very interesting because on the absolutely top floor, you see there are windows sealed or no windows at all. You know what a temple is without windows? It's a tomb. And it's been used in many other secret societies, for example, Skull and Bones. So every time when you see something like this, don't come to the idea that it has something to do with, oh, they run out of money, so they couldn't afford any more windows. No, it could also have been an occult reason behind it. I cannot prove it. I did not go extensively in the Texas Schoolbook Depositorium. This is just the things which are visible to me at first glance. So pardon me, but I cannot go into everything because we are not doing here a session about 200 parts of Kennedy. But I just want to show you that these buildings has some anomalies, yeah, some unusual things on that building. Very interesting. William Cooper says in the Mystery Babylon series, when it comes down to sun worship, and we talked about Osiris being the sun god, he says, therefore, Masonic terms the north as a place of darkness. Why is that? Well, if you think about Isaiah 14:12, who's sitting in north, Brett?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the place where Father God resides. And
yeah.
That's something the Freemasons are aware of as well. That's why they built this, you know, about this this temple in Washington, D.C. called the Temple. And it was built, I think, around the time of Albert Pike's death, and they put his remains in there without his permission. Against his permission, actually, but they did it anyway. And yeah, there's just so many different ways to look at this thing. But I mean, if you've ever seen pictures of it, you know what I'm talking about. It's rather revealing why there would be something that fancy built up in Washington, D.C. It says something about Washington, D.C. as far as I'm concerned. There was a researcher online that did a video about the temple, and that was done by a fella, I forget his name exactly. I don't want to get his name wrong, so I'm sorry, I just can't think of his name, but he has a YouTube channel that's been suppressed and erased because he's from Canada, and he's done some really what would you call that kind of risky research into nefarious occult things, and highly suppressed and in big trouble, and unfortunately he doesn't really have a religious background so much. He's more into the secular world. But he's looked into a lot of books by Tex Mars and other authors, and I forget his name now. I just can't think of it at the moment. But he has, I think, a channel. I think his YouTube channel was called Something for Truth. Oh, what was it? But anyway, he had this video about the temple, and I was blown away when I watched that some years ago, and I says, you know, this is a temple to the Antichrist. Of course, I didn't know much about historicism back then, but he basically blocked my comment, took it off there. But anyway.
Actually, every temple is a temple of the Antichrist, because God does not dwell in temples made out of stone.
There we go. That's the real truth. You see, there's a lot more to it. It's just that when you start recognizing that, you know, there's a seat in there made of cement or stone or whatever it is, and it says, know thyself. And I says, oh, Jesus said, deny thyself. So why would they say know thyself in this temple? You know, it's pretty simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, it's Luciferian doctrine.
Yeah, it's the opposite of Christ. So what would that be other than Antichrist? That's what I says to myself. You know, Press for Truth. That's the name of the channel.
Okay.
And I forget the name of the guy. Pardon me, but yeah, I mean, you know, he's just another researcher that just doesn't have any faith. He's out there with a lot of the other Bilderberger people that, you know, they're exposing Bilderberg, but they know nothing about the papacy. And yeah, it's a shame, but that's how it works in the truther community, Michael.
So a north is the mouth of the congregation where God lives and where Lucifer wants to be, or wanted to be, actually. And you see that we have done so many sessions about the NASA. They also want to ascend above the heights of the clouds. Allegedly, they succeeded. So I highly doubt that. Yeah, but sometimes it is the way it is. Huh? So this is Dealey Plaza once again. It is also very interesting when you think about the numerology. When you look upon the height of the underpass, it is exactly 14 feet at the Elm Lane. Yeah, maybe a coincidence. I don't know. Yeah, but also very interested, that is here 13 feet and 5 inch. What is 13 plus 5?
18, Michael.
Yeah, which is?
6 plus 6 plus 6.
Yeah, it's once again. Yeah, so sometimes things can be very easy. So allegedly, this is north. This is north side. This is Elm Street. This is the spot where Kennedy was killed. And this is the spot where Abraham Zapruder stood. How convenient, huh? What a coincidence, yes. And there are 4 corners also. So that means that we have to take an approach onto that very Dealey Plaza, onto that Elm Street. So we are also going up. You see once again here. Oops, where am I? I'm lost. I'm totally lost. I'm totally lost. I need a cab driver. Somebody call a cab. Yeah, you see here the Texas Schoolbook Depositorium. Yeah. Okay, so and then we approach. Sorry?
Google it, blocked it off there, the blur.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Don't know. Yeah. Really strange. Anyway, but
there's something there they don't want you to see, Michael.
Oh, there's much here which they don't want you to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are approaching the X. Not the Easter eggs, but the eggs of John F. Kennedy. This is more or less here. Okay. And you see here, this is a temple of the sun, or of the underworld. Yeah, so this is the one. This is alleged to be north. So you know that where south must be. Yeah. Ah, there's south over there. Yeah, so there's another pergola, which is more or less, it's a limitation of the outer size of the temple, so to speak. I would call that so. And then we go to the Elm Street, and when we go to the Elm Street, we see the north side of that pergola. This is where Abraham Sapuna was located. You see that Mr. Abraham Sapuna was somebody between here and here, and now you look at the X. Oh, it's getting dizzy here. Yeah, you see? This is more or less exactly, yeah, where he stood, yeah, where the shot came, the fatal shot to Kennedy. This is exactly. I think that is very exact here. So now you got 4 directions. You know that this is north, this is south, so where is east? Of course, where is east? Here is east, because this is Osiris and the sun is rising in the east. So this must be west. Yeah, so it's very easy to have the 4 corners, and Cooper says that resembles the 4 seasons of the year. Could also resemble another thing, but you see, could also resemble the elements, but it's the 4 seasons of the year. So nonetheless, 4 seasons of the year, what does that tell you? That is the sides of the north. You see that when you got a temple, you got 4 sides. It's only 4 sides. It's just north, west, east, south. And you got it here at the temple of, or the statue of the Statue of Victory in Berlin. Victoria, Roman goddess of victory, or liberty, or what else, I don't care. This is just the statue of Victoria, so victory. You got here also 4 celestial directions, north, west, east, south. And now getting back to the Temple of the Sun, where Cooper says north is a place of darkness. Yeah, because that's the place where Lucifer cannot go. He wants to be a chief above the heads of the clouds. He wanted to be like the Most High, but he cannot be. He has to avoid north, and north is, of course, the dead of the sun. Because in German there is a saying, I don't know if that is correct in English. Let me try to translate it, and please, Brad, please correct me if I'm wrong. In east, the sun is rising. To south, it is going. She will be descending in the west, and in the north she's not to appear. Is that almost correct?
That is, yes.
Yeah, so that is, of course, at Masonic, sun worship in the north is the death, because it's the death of the sun, because the sun cannot be seen in the north. So it's so obvious why the Elm Street is the street of death. It is once for the elms, for the tree of death or dreams. It is 2 because it is in the north, and so in the north the sun is not to see, not appearing. And there are many other things. I tried to recall something about the limousine of John F. Kennedy. It's called SS Secret Service 100X GG 300 license plate, presidential limousine, made by the Ford Motor Company of the Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln Mercury Division. It's had the width of 6,667 feet. How convenient, huh? Of course, Brett, this is just coincidence. But it goes much more further, because Henry Ford also was, of course, a Freemason. Because these people have to organize themselves to earn money big time. They have to serve the mammon. Otherwise, they would not be famous in the satanic world, wouldn't they? And he received the 33-degree Freemasonry grade in 1940. So to speak. The annual meeting of the Supreme Council for the Scottish Rite of Northern Masonic Jurisdiction, September 1940, in Cincinnati. Oh, Cincinnati, there was something with Cincinnati, huh? Yes, Cincinnatus. So once again, you got a car from a company who belonged or was founded by a Freemason, high-ranking Freemason. Yes, and these people are deceiving you with many doctrines when you go for the apple branch bread then some say that this is the solution, but the apple is not complete because one has bitten into it, and it has been said that there was an apple in the Garden of Eden and the tree of knowledge. No, it was not an apple, it was just a fruit. So this is deception over where. So this is a shooting ritual here in Dealey Plaza. Don't let them deceive you. Then this is close to the 33 latitude parallel, like also the dropping of nuclear bombs with the Trinity symbol. So 11/22, 22nd of November, also is 33. Dealey Plaza was liberally designed as the Kabbalistic Tree of Life pattern with Elm Street as card 20, judgment.
Yep, Dealey Plaza was deliberately, that means intentionally designed as the Kabbalistic Tree of Life pattern. Ew.
Yeah.
That's not a good place, Michael.
No, that is just the Elm Street, the card 20 past 31 judgment or new aeon, and resembles the letter Shin, which has the value 300, which is obviously the number of the license plate of John F. Kennedy's car. Which means that this is my conclusion, at the time of the manufacturing of that limousine, when they have the equipment, they have equipped that car with that license plate, it has been said, or it has been indicated that has been transported a man of sin, or a man which has been judged. Yeah, it's a part of judgment. And now you look at this symbol here. The past 20 judgment aeon has the letter Shin, 300, which is also resemblance to fire. And what was it other than the fire of a bullet, the fire of a gun or a rifle, which struck the President Kennedy in the head of that famous or infamous 313 picture. 313 also has a very interesting resemblance. Yeah, and so that is more or less, I think it would be called orange in color, that what is emitting from Mr. Kennedy, huh? I don't know if brain tissue actually is orange. I know that orange is more or less the color of the sun. And the color of fire. Interesting, huh? I don't know if that photo is absolutely correct, 313 here. Because I say, once again, I have said numerous times, and I'm not tired to say it, I believe 100% that the Zapruder film has been faked intensively. So I don't know if that is an artifact here that they said, oh, we have to make it more dramatic, or it has been just the way it is. I don't know, but what I know is that this movie has been faked. I'm absolutely sure. Just one mentioning of it, the stopping of the car by the special service driver is not very, it's not very clear on the Zapruder movie, and there are other hints too. I got so much things on the Zapruder movie. I found a very good researcher on that. Please wait until this. So it's then the judgment then, and this is the shape of the lower part of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, which is the road of judgment. And when you pass the courts building, when you pass the police, so here, this is the old court, new court. When you pass the old court, new court, police, and when you get down to this, then judgment has been said, because the judges are here, Brad. The judges are in these buildings. The courts. So you have been judged to go down in the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. You go down to earth, or under the earth. This is a mystic tradition of the Jews, and it has nothing to do with truth. This is another example of that. It has also abbreviation, or there's also a similar meaning to what is above must then take place below.
As above, so below.
As above, so below. These are 22 interconnecting things, so it's also resemblance of the letter 22. And there are other resemblance to Aleister Crowley as well. As above, so below is that people actually call themselves like Baphomet, and this is the very same gesture that your President George Washington has. We have talked about that before. Yeah, so this is of course Aleister Crowley. If he was a Freemason or not, I don't care, because he was everything to anybody. Yeah, he was a Jesuit in thinking, and he was belonging. He has been erected his own order, so you see that he's been very proud of all his possessions. Yeah, and I don't care what he was. I know that he was a Satanist. He was not having anything to do with a nice human being. Yeah, because these are secret teachings. So now then look again, yeah, at the tree of life. When you take the planet meaning, so the planetary equivalence here, then you get here the sun. Yeah, remember the obelisk. Yeah, the sun symbol. Yeah, so when this is a sun here, and you imagine this being the Houston Street. Yeah, and either this or that, but you have to approach the sign of Mercury. And this would be the Texas Schoolbook Depository, because Mercury is, in astrology, for example, it's a synonym for teaching. Yeah, because Mercury is the messenger of the gods, so he brings the knowledge of the gods down to the people. And so Mercury, for me, is the absolutely spot-on equivalent to the Texas Schoolbook Depository. They are schooling the people, and at this moment they are schooling the American president how to behave properly, or how to obey orders, and he didn't obey. And so this is Mercury. And now you look here at Shin 33, and you know that it goes down to Malkuth, to the earth, which means you have to die. Yeah? And it's very interesting because this, as I told you, and it's not my drawing, yeah, this is the actual route, yeah, right, and then down on Elm Street. This is the actual route, and Tau 32 would be the main street, and 29 would be the Commerce Street. So you can be sure that you will make it big time. But once again, you are approaching from the sun, Mercury, which is a Texas Schoolbook Depositorium, and then by the way, this is where the pyramid on Elm 1201 would be. But you're approaching Mercury, and then you go down to Shin 31. And now just please look just once again. This is the route, and this is Mercury here, the Texas Schoolbook Depository. And then once again, this is the presidential car. He was assassinated in his presidential car with the GG300 Shin, which means judgment, so he had to come down to judgment. He was going on the Elm Street to the underpass or the underworld. And now it comes really, because the car was been painted in midnight blue. Yeah, so what is midnight but the absence of light? And once again, this car has been created by the 33-degree Freemason Ford in the Lincoln Mercury division. That can only be a coincidence, huh? I don't think that people don't talk about this in a usual JFK documentary.
Isn't that interesting that Mercury position is 8s? It says 8s.
Mm-hmm.
And the sign of Anu is an 8-pointed star. Sign of Cain, the mark of Cain, yeah.
Yeah, the car is 6,667 feet. Yeah, and he passes Mercury, and the car has been made by the Lincoln. And Lincoln has been assassinated as well. I'm sorry, it's not to laugh, yeah, but he has been assassinated as well. Yeah, and yes. Mercury is of course the name of a Roman god and a so-called planet.
Oh, and I remember all of the parallels between the Lincoln assassination and the Kennedy assassination that you pointed out in the beginning of this series.
Yes, and that is the car has been named SS100X, yes, 100 because it's the difference between the years between Kennedy and Lincoln, and GG300 could be Shin, could be the road of justice here. You see that there's so much information already, and there's so much research needed for all the things, but it has been done intentionally. So somebody has been called it car 100, although it was just one being fabricated. Somebody has to be equipped this car with the GG300 sign, which makes absolutely no sense. Oh, it was by accident that there were 300 cars registered in the city district of. Come on, really. Yeah, but the main thing is that it's a Mercury division, and letter Shin resembles 300, and Mercury is, of course, the equivalent to the messenger of the gods, handing knowledge over to men. So what other than a school book or book in general, huh? Furthermore, the Elm Street resembles the parking garage where Oswald was shot by Jack Ruby. And I know that I need another session and another session to cover all the details from the Texas Schoolbook Depository, because it's almost endless. So this is a garage where Lee Harvey Oswald was shot. This is a court building or a criminal building. This has also been where the police was holding him in custody. So he was been in this parking garage when he was being shot. Yeah, and here is the obelisk. So he was in the temple area, of course, at the Freemason. So that it almost looks like this Jacques de Molay story. I don't know if that is true, because I don't know if any medieval or Middle Age story is true, because they were only handed or written down by people who could write and read. And these people were clergies or high-ranking officials or nobility. So whom to trust? Whom to trust, actually? So, but that took also place. That killing of Oswald also took place on Dealey Plaza. Yeah. So like almost like yeah, he has to approach the obelisk and then we can shoot him down. Yeah. So this is the other view from that point. This is the obelisk, and there you got your garage, which you cannot see for obvious reasons. Yeah. So maybe you can see it here. You got the garage and you got the obelisk. So it is possible to see the obelisk from that garage, I'd say. Oh, these are so many things. So 3 pyramids and 3 eyes makes the first 6. Yeah, this is the triple underpass with 3 openings, 3 pyramids and 3 eyes. The 6th floor window is another 6. And then you got 3 shots achieving 3 wounds. The official story is another 6. So you got only 3s and 6 in Dealey Plaza. And what do you expect when the same guy who has made the inauguration and took the oath of John F. Kennedy has been handed over the official examination of the dead, the so-called warrant for Chief Earl Justice Warren Commission, and then handing over the report of that Warren Commission, resembling Alan Dulles, Sovereign Knight of Malta, who has also a Jesuitical and future President Gerald Ford. What do we expect when the Freemason is handing over a report to Lyndon B. Johnson, also Freemason, and the Sovereign Knight of Malta, and a report of the Freemason in a Freemason temple, in a Freemason city, in a Freemason country? Can't be that hard. Yeah, because they concluded, they did not tell the truth. They concluded here in the Warren Commission, after a nearly year-long investigation. I highly doubt that that was an investigation. I think that it was from the beginning, it was absolutely clear what the outcome would be. And the outcome is Lee Harvey Oswald did it, and he was a lone nut. They concluded, has acted alone, of course. Oh, he had such a bad mood. Yeah, he could not have done it, and we will prove that in further sessions. Yeah, but there are conspiracy theories that the president could be assassinated, but they concluded that. Yeah, they did not know that. They concluded that. They said, okay, we agree on that. Yeah, we will say that this is so and so, and it has nothing to do with that. Because if you know the background, that on the 22nd of November 1633, on St. Cecilia's Day, the Ark and the Dove left Gravesend with an unknown number of passengers. Yes, yeah, to Catholicize the America. And that was, I think, the purpose, the intention of John F. Kennedy, that he should Catholicize the American people. He said, I'm not a Catholic candidate for presidency. And I think that was the sentence which killed him. Because I think the powers to be, they said, okay, that's just for the voters, and let's look what the boy will do when he's president, or he's acting as a president. Because
there you go, Michael. That's right.
He never was the most powerful.
As they say, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah. And it's very interesting also because you see that on St. Cecilia's Day, the 22nd of November, 1633, that happened with the Ark and the Dove. And then you just make the math. It's 330 years, if I'm not mistaken. You got another 33.
Yeah. 330.
Yeah, don't underestimate the Vatican. Yeah, but Ambassador Francis Rooney advised you not to do so.
Yeah, that's right.
He says, quote, "No institution on earth had both the international stature and the global reach of the Holy See, the soft power of moral influence and authority to promote religious freedom, human liberties, and related values that America and our allies uphold worldwide." Understand he uses the word authority. Yeah. Yeah, that is a very interesting book, Global Vatican. I can only recommend the reading of Tom Fress. And in that very book, The Ark and the Dove, which my brother in Christ, Brett, has handed over to me some weeks ago, it has been depicted that sails were spread on the Ark and the Dove in the early morning of November the 22nd, 1633. So that is exactly 330 years ago.
Yep, I actually have an original copy of that book.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for handing it over.
Press and Jörg Glismann.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jörg and I were doing some studies, and he convinced me to buy that book, actually.
Look at here. At Cowes, according to Brown, they took on board the Jesuit mission priests and a number of other emigrants, raising the total to about 320 souls. Wikipedia does not know the exact number. Okay. But they took on board the Jesuit mission priests, and then you know what the purpose was. The Jesuits are the soldiers of the Roman Catholic Church. It is to fight Protestantism, or it is to start the Counter-Reformation, actually. Yeah. There's also another resemblance to the 22nd of November in 1307. That was a papal bull, Pastoralis Preeminentiae, issued by Pope Clement V onto all Christian monarchs. Yeah, they're all Christians, by the way, monarchs. They have given authority by the church. It ordered the arrest of all Knights Templars and to seize their properties on behalf of the church. Let's not forget that the City of London Corporation, where our God's banker Roberto Calvi has been found hanged on an orange cord with some bricks in his pockets, has been founded by the Knights Templars, one of the first bankers, international people with huge amount of money and support behind them. So that was also on the 22nd of November 1307. And it has also another 22nd November thing, which will come up in session 60. Yeah. And so they arrested the Templars on the 13th, it was a Friday, by the way, Friday the 13th of 1307. 1 plus 3 plus 7 equals? Yes, once again, Brett? Yep. If you like to search
11,
for
yes.
That was the second part of the Dealey Plaza ritual, and I got so much material you cannot imagine. I just maybe have mentioned 20% of all the things about Dealey Plaza I got. There are so many things happening there and so many things to go into, just to show you that it has nothing to do with the low nut by accident hitting the president. Yeah, he would not have done that on the 6th floor building where he has absolutely totally problems to get away, to flee after he murdered the American president. Come on. And then you decide to shoot at a sniper's nest at the 6th floor where you have to approach other floors even to get out of that building. And many people will see you and say, yeah, I saw that guy coming down from the 6th floor. Really? You really believe this? You really believe that somebody is capable to do this with that few thoughts and without any preparation? Oh, yeah, just a bad day. Oh, President Kennedy is coming. I hate the guy. Bang. Really. Yeah, and by accident, all the windows were open and the support of the Secret Service wasn't there. Fletcher Prouty has been sent to the Antarctica. Everybody was there who hated Kennedy. The Dallas Morning News has told some interesting things, which has been happened to be founded by the Mr. Dealey himself, which was a 33-degree Freemasons. Abraham Zapruder stand right in place, who was then at least a 32-degree Freemason. And all the other things in Vietnam had been settled one day before, and all the American presidents were in place, and they have been gathered together at Clint Murchison home one day before the assassination took place. He, meaning Lyndon Johnson, told Madeleine Brown that son of a bitch Kennedys will not embarrass me again. That is not a threat, that is a promise, if she is correct. And all the other artifacts on that Elm Street with the Kabbalistic Tree of Life and with the letter Shin and with Judgment and in the North and etc., and the elms. And where shall I start? And you really think that it's just a low nut called Mr. Oswald, and that happened to be on the Warren Commission report, where Mr. Warren himself is a high-ranking Freemason guy. I think if you really think that, I'm sorry, but you are then very naive. But maybe Mr. Dave McGowan is correct, that if you really suck in all the truth, which is in the rituals, in every nitty-gritty of 9/11, the moon landing, the JFK assassinations, then you really fear for your life if you don't have Jesus Christ. If you don't see that this is just another station, this life, it is not the absolute, this is just this life, and it is not the end. But if you have Jesus Christ, then you've been reborn, and then your life has a complete new meaning without having the necessity to have fear against any government suppression or what else. You don't have to have fear, because it is the Lord which saves you. It is not the government, it is not the police, it is not anyone but the Lord which can save you, according to John 14:6. And on that behalf, and on that regard, I'd like to hand it over to my beloved brother Brett to maybe have some deeper meanings or have some clues and some words of him, because I have to drink a little bit because I'm a little bit out of breath at the moment. Thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you in the third part, which I can really promise is a continuation, and it will go into full esteem then. Thanks for having me, and please listen to Brett, because he's running an outstanding channel. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Michael. Thanks to you, of course, and all the research you've done. This is far and beyond the ability that I have, because, I'm just a working American here in the United States, in the state of Minnesota, and my specialty is doing carpentry and other tasks that we have to do to maintain houses here in a very cold state. Well, it's not as cold as Canada, actually. Our neighbors up in Canada have it much harsher than we do. I was up in Winnipeg, I think it was in 2005, and they call it Winterpeg up there. I thought that was pretty hilarious, actually, because it's very flat there. And a lot of Minnesota is flat too, and especially in the western part of the state. And there's a lot of wind, and when you have winter and lots of wind, it is very cold. And that's the case where my mother grew up, out there near Wilmer, Minnesota, and that's where she lives at the present time, near Wilmer. And yeah, so very warm thank you, Michael, for the research and for all of the discussion on the Dealey Plaza and the ties to Freemasonry, which are not all that obvious, actually. Requires quite a bit of research and knowledge of history that, quite frankly, is not that easy to obtain until you sit down and you start to study and do your own research, as we've suggested. But that's all right. We have to take things in their due season, and certainly the season we live in now is very difficult, especially on YouTube, trying to, cope with our limitations. We are not at liberty to speak of all things on this channel. I have started a BitChute channel called Truth to Set Us Free, and that's the number 2 with no spaces. And you can look up that channel. I have 2 videos up at the present time from Daryl Eberhardt. We're going to be putting more up there as time goes on, because we can speak freely, to a large degree on BitChute, more than YouTube, because YouTube will take down videos that go against the official narrative in certain subjects, not all. And I think that on the John F. Kennedy subject, that we're allowed to speak freely for the most part, because this is a long time ago and it's no longer an issue. Whereas we speak of certain health practices and things, we would get instantly banned on YouTube or cut off or have our channels taken away, which we do not want. So, wow, how much information it takes to overcome the troubles that we have had lurking. This is a subject that we will continue to expose and go into in great detail in the future, I would hope, God willing. Only time will tell how much freedom we'll be allowed to have on YouTube to continue. But it seems at the moment things are all right. And, I'm not quite at liberty here to start up a new channel and a new direction on doing social media, because I work a job every day and I'm quite busy, a lot of stress. But that's the nature of our life. It's a stressful life, and I prefer to have my stress at work rather than at home, because I know there are a lot of people working from home actually with the present times. But that perhaps will, who knows, change. I don't know. It just seems like things are going to keep going in this direction, Michael. And yeah, I just hope and pray that everyone out there, all our listeners, are going to be enduring the hard times. And certainly it is interesting times as well. It's not just difficult. It is also very interesting to see things unfolding the way that they do in this present world, because I do believe that we're going to have to suffer with them. We cannot necessarily change things. Things are going to be tough, and the Bible tells us they're going to be tough, and we're going to be tried, as it were, in a furnace, in a fiery furnace, so to speak. And that fiery furnace represented by the trials, temptations, and the crisis, the tribulation that we are going to go through in this life. And then we will see if we either stand in the judgment or if we fall and are condemned. And my hope is that every one of our listeners is going to stand and endure the hard times ahead. So, God willing, we'll see you next time. Maranatha, which means Lord, come quickly.